a handful of defensive backs lining up across some of the top wide receivers in the game. RC, time for you to coach them up. So what advice would you give these DBs ahead of the matchups? Let's start in Philly.
Well, yeah, the first group is going to be Puka Nacua versus everybody. We know that Sean McVay is going to move him all around to try to find the perfect matchup, whether you're playing inside and you're Cooper DeJean and you're going to have to be there to be physical with him intermediately, or a guy on the outside like Quinyon Mitchell, who he could try to take deep for the 50-50 ball. Also, the intermediate routes on the outside and the catch and run versus someone like Darius Slay. I think Puka Nacua is a problem as that number one receiver. Now, I want to see if Derek Stingley will match up with DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is normally the X-receiver, so he doesn't move a ton. I feel like with the way Derek Stingley is playing right now at a high level, I want to see him totally erase that matchup. And now to the other side with the sticks, with also some of the bunches, some of the stacks, some of the motions, you can play off of those things, zone those off, pass those off, and play levels while Derek Stingley takes out DeAndre Hopkins completely to himself. And listen, in this game, it's whoever gets a chance against Brandon Stevens. We all know this is the weak link of the entire defense of the Baltimore Ravens. Last week, when they were trying to get things going against the Baltimore Ravens and you were the Pittsburgh Steelers, they attacked 21. You have to do the same thing if you're the Buffalo Bills. Joe Brady needs to find that matchup, concentrate on that matchup, and exploit that matchup. They're so good everywhere else on defense, but that is the liability. And lastly, I want to see if Amik Robertson, who we watched match up with Justin Jefferson last week, will do the same this week with Terry McLaurin. De'Ami Brown had a great game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but Terry McLaurin is by far and away Jaden Daniels' best and first priority at the wide receiver position. Can Amik Robertson do some of the things to frustrate Terry McLaurin that we saw him do against Justin Jefferson? Because if he can, that will go a long way to this defense stopping the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, Scary Terry, 8 receiving touchdowns since week 12, including one last week, most in the NFL during that time. All right, meanwhile, good news for the Lions offense this week. They get David Montgomery back, who missed the last 3 games of the regular season with that knee injury. Jared Goff has been a much better passer with Montgomery on the field compared to Jahmyr Gibbs due to running almost double the amount of play action. With Montgomery on the field, Goff has a higher QBR, throws for more yards per attempt, and has a better touchdown to interception ratio. So, RC, when we're talking about how they should use these running backs, what do you expect?
Well, I think the first thing is establish the run. When you think about the games where the Detroit Lions were completely dominant offensively, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery got going early. Now, we don't know if Knuckles is going to have the sort of burst that he had. A ton of that when you think about what the Detroit Lions love to do. And now you have some of these players like a Jahmyr Gibbs, who if he gets into that sort of space, he could take the 10-yard run and turn it into a 20-yard run or a touchdown. I think you start with this run game, and from this run game, you move into condensed split passing game where we can get Jamo Williams taken off the top of the defense, or Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta working inside the numbers.
First of all, I love the matchup stuff. I mean, that's such a good focus point for everybody, and I totally agree in this game. So those 3 keys for Detroit's offense. This offense can kind of do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, but the stuff that are, and then you bring someone from the outside or the opposite side and inside out them, and they think they have a good play. Detroit's going to have a lot of things for Washington to try to have to figure out and handle, unless Washington plays one of its best, if not the best defensive game they've had all season. It's hard to see this offense in Detroit not scoring 30-plus points in this game at home.
And thus, who do we have moving on to the NFC Championship game? Everyone here is sticking with the Lions. Remember last week, Mina, when Dan told us he was going to pick every game 20-17? Well, he did it again.
I don't think he actually believes that in this case.
No, he doesn't.
No,
he absolutely
doesn't.
I think it's 30, like 34-23.
Dan, don't change now. Don't change now, Dan. Just let it be. Be
I'm not
who you
blinking.
are, bro.
He's
I'm
just
not blinking.
playing
We
the
accept you.
percentages. He's playing. It's the end of the season. This is what you get from Dan. All right, start with a marquee matchup at quarterback. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen meeting Sunday evening in snowy Buffalo and likely to finish 1 and 2 in MVP voting. Allen ranking first in QBR this season. Lamar a close second. Also, both able to put up 40 combined passing and rushing touchdowns while limiting turnovers. Ravens at Bills will be the first playoff game in history to feature 2 players with 40 combined passing and rushing touchdowns, as well as fewer than 10 turnovers. But the Ravens' top receiver, Zay Flowers, did not practice again today, missed all practices this week, although he did appear to have just finished a workout when reporters arrived to practice today. John Harbaugh was asked about his availability for Sunday and said, "I think he has a chance." Right now, though, Zay Flowers listed as doubtful. Great to be with you all. We have Dan the Man here, Orlovsky, Mina Kimes, RC, just before he jets off to Kansas City for the game tomorrow. So let's get started, guys. Dan, the Ravens had their first outdoor practice of the week today. What should their game plan be going into this one in Buffalo?
Yeah, all those different zone reads. And I think the challenge for Buffalo is how they're going to handle all those different zone reads when Lamar has that ball there and trying to pay attention to it. Go back to last week when they used Lamar as a decoy. Remember, Patrick Ricard likely kind of in those unique spots, the wildcat formation with Derrick Henry. Lamar goes in motion. Everybody obviously paying attention to him. And now Derrick Henry has the opportunity to get downhill. What is going to be the wrinkle off of this that Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator, can take advantage of? Everybody's going to be paying attention to Lamar Jackson, rightfully so. How can they utilize that for another big game? I'll be interested to see how Buffalo handles that traditional zone read, the triple option where they can take their backs and get in motion. And if you're going to play man coverage without Zay Flowers, everybody's got to be really greased because Lamar can hand the ball off if he loves it. He could be the keeper if he loves it, or he could throw the bubble. That's that modern day triple option. If you aren't completely committed to what you're doing, you give up free yards to this offense. That was one of the problems with the Steelers last week. That's a very simple play for Baltimore to operate, but it's a struggle for the defense. How many different ways can they get into those 3-man surfaces and force that defensive end to collapse or stay wide? And sometimes Derrick Henry just has open lanes because of Lamar. I think the Bills have to try to either 100% force Lamar to hand the football off and Derrick Henry be the ball carrier, or give Lamar constant different looks, almost like basketball does.
Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn